Hello and welcome to another live stream of Euro 2020 Happy Hour. And we're live with myself, Sham, otherwise known as FPL 2 Guys 1 Cup.
And myself, Rob, otherwise known as FPL Panda.
What have you done with the cameras, you prick?
I don't know. We didn't need to see your face. We'll see your face in a minute.
So it's semi-final night and this is part 1, Rob. So we've got England versus Ukraine first. So without further ado, let me introduce you and welcome back two faces, our English rep, James, at Planet FPL, and our Danish rep, Morten, at FPL_cycling. How are you doing, boys?
All right, thanks.
Yeah, all right.
Good. Very happy over the weekend? You both got results?
All right, not bad. Taking it chilled, one step at a time.
Getting used to it.
Yeah,
we'll never get used to winning here, mate.
Morton's been on more times than God knows how much. Like, he's literally been, I think this is 4th stream in a row with us. Yeah. Part of the furniture. Right, so I'll just talk to you guys through those that are watching and listening through the agenda tonight. What we're going to do, we're doing 2 parts. So this is our first part and we'll do our second part at 9:30. So we're going to be talking about England and a review of the tournament so far. We haven't had James on since our preview show. We have had Morten on talking about Denmark. So we'll talk to James about how he thinks the England team have done. We'll then do a review of the Ukraine match. We'll then go back to Morten and talk about Denmark and Czech and the review there. And then we'll do a preview for the England and Denmark game, what their thoughts are, fantasy options and otherwise. And then we'll talk about their plans for the semi-finals, what they want to do with their teams and any differentials. And then we'll do a Q&A. So if you've got any questions, just leave them to the end and then we'll get them answered. Right. James, thanks for coming on, mate.
Pleasure, mate.
So talk me through England group stage. Let's go step by step. What did you think of the group stage, how we did?
Mediocre, let's be honest. Football wasn't great, was it? Wasn't exactly 4.5 hours of thrill a minute football. We won the important game, which was the first one. It was obviously a no-lose game against Croatia. To be honest, 7 points is probably what we would have predicted pre-tournament. I think 9 points is probably unrealistic for us to start a tournament. Just looking at historically, we've spoken in the past about England had never won an opening game in the Euros before. I think we just about shaded the game deserved to win. The Scotland game was a disaster, but not a complete disaster, because the complete disaster would have been losing the game. And I think there was a mass overreaction to what happens that night. There was a lot of Southgate's clueless with his tactics. Get him out, we'll win nothing with him. The Czech Republic game was tedious, but again, it did the job. It ensured we won the group, which meant we stayed at Wembley. And I think what was important, what we were saying on our podcast, was it's basically 2 tournaments. There's a group stage and there's a knockout. Because of that 1 week break between the group stage and the knockout for us, it was almost like, forget the group stage. It feels ages ago now. It does it, like thinking back to when I sat down and watched Croatia, it feels like a long time ago now. So it was very much always, when I came on with you guys pre-tournament, we said the big game will be the last 16 game. And historically, England don't win knockout games against major opposition. We cleared that hurdle. And we always said that if we could win that game, there would be an opportunity of bringing it home. And it's on the table now. We've got a chance.
So at the end of the group stages, obviously people were asking questions of Gareth Southgate and the tactics and the team and it's boring football and this and that. From your point of view, was it a case of you wanted, like loads of people were saying, I know obviously we wouldn't, I'm sure you won't ever say get Gareth out mid-tournament, but were you like a believer in his tactics and the teams that he was putting out? Like, pretty much all England fans are to a point now that, look, he's done this well. He's put out the right team clearly. But at that end of the group stages, were you in that position as well?
Me and Suj didn't have any doubts on Gareth. Okay. You could say he's making mistakes, and there was a lot that we was unhappy about with the group stage. But at the end of the day, before Croatia, if we'd have said 7 points, we'd have all gone, yeah, all right. No goals conceded. Never really looked like we was going to concede in any of the games, bar a small period that Scotland had in the second group stage game. And it wasn't great, but we knew this. We spoke about Portugal from 5 years ago and how they kind of bored everyone to tears en route to winning 1 game out of 7 in 90 minutes to win the trophy. The group stage in this format, where only 8 teams go out, it's making sure you're not one of the 8 shit teams, right? Don't die at the first hurdle. Then when you get to the knockout stage, you have to go and win games. The Germany game was 50-50. Did someone just let off?
Someone's phone vibrated, I think.
The Germany game was a 50-50. Let's not make out that we were magnificent that day. We could have very easily lost. It could have gone the other way. Obviously, Saturday was great, but in my opinion, we played a very weak team, which, I mean, what did they get through as basically the 16th team from the group stage, didn't they? We were very fortunate to end up playing them in the one away game that we're going to have. No doubts on Gareth. I think the one thing I've almost learned to do is just accept his choices. So like when Saka played against the Czech Republic, it was a bit like, oh, that's left field. And even we spoke about Sancho a lot pre-tournament. And I said that I didn't think he would play much because Gareth is such a loyalist to Sterling, which I think's been, I mean, Raz has been great, right?
Yeah.
No one's really doubting that now at this stage. But then even when it kind of, the news broke Friday night, oh, Sancho's going to be in the team. There was a bit of, but it was almost a bit of, because he got the tactics so right against Germany, there was almost just an acceptance. Okay, he's going to go back to a back 4. We're playing a weaker team. We go a little bit more offensive. No, I'm very pleased. He knew that the team he picked against Germany, he knew that if he didn't win that game, he said it himself, he was basically dead, because the criticism from social media, the written press, etc., TV, would have been unbearable for him to lose that game, having left all that attacking talent on the bench. But he got it right. Even the big substitution with Grealish, he got it right.
Do you enjoy watching them? Like, do you enjoy? Because I know, having listened to your pod for a long time, listening to you talk about Tottenham under the Pochettino era and that expansive football, you like that, and then obviously going to the Mourinho era where it's kind of boring football, so to say. This almost seems like it's boring football, but do you enjoy watching that? Do you think
England's group stage performances were world class compared to some of the shite I watched at Tottenham over the last 18 months? So it's probably easier for me to take, actually, bearing that in mind. I think, look, the way we played on the front foot, we spoke a lot on our pod this morning about pressure off the ball was very different in the Ukraine game. That was aggressive with and without the ball. The Germany game, the tempo was better. I don't read too much into the group stage. The tournaments are littered all the way through history of teams struggling in group stages and going on to win major tournaments, particularly under this 2014 format. It is all about what you do in the knockout stage. So as much as after the group stage, you go, that is a bit underwhelming. If we play like that against Germany, we'll get beat. But we didn't play like that against Germany.
Yeah. So a couple of questions before we look at the Ukraine game in a bit more detail. Who do you think the standout players have been for England this tournament?
I think John Stones is not getting a lot of talks. I think Luke Shaw's nicking a lot of the headlines, which is quite right with the 3 assists, etc. Jordan Pickford, old little arms, has been very good in goal, reliable. Luke himself, Harry Maguire, since he's come back in, has done great. There's not many England players. Raz has been great, Raheem Sterling. There's not many England players you go, what? In fact, is there anyone? Even though the performances in the group stage weren't good, I don't look back on anyone and think, God, you had a mare there. Or like, I was really unhappy with the way Shaw and Reece James played in the Scotland game. But I think it was just a tactical setup on the night, which I think Southgate got his tactics wrong in that particular game. But neither of them played particularly badly on that night individually. There's no one even throughout the squad you'd look back and go, oh, he's let us down, or he's had a stinker. Look at Tyrone Mings' performances against Croatia and Scotland. We were worried about him, and he did well.
Yeah, he did
fine. I wouldn't want him to come back into the team, by the way, but he did well in the 2 games. There's no one in the squad that's particularly let us down. I know a lot of people on Harry's back. You don't even need to ask me the question about Harry, because you know what my response will be.
Yeah,
don't doubt him. Don't doubt him.
Yeah. Finally, likes and dislikes so far. So up until this point now, what are your likes and dislikes of this English side?
Dislikes tempo in the group stage, but it all seems perfectly reasonable now. It's even on that pod we did pre-tournament, we said it's not about the team he picks in the first game, it's about the team that finishes the tournament, right? The 11 that's on the pitch, whether it be on Wednesday night if we go to penalties against Denmark, or go to penalties in the final, or whatever. It's about the team that finishes the tournament is going to be the most important team rather than what started it. I think the likes now, the biggest one of all is that everybody's right behind the team now, whereas just after the Scotland game, you got that kind of feeling where it could go down the road that no matter what Southgate does, people will be against him now because of that, because of the history with the derby, with it being Scotland and stuff. A lot of people overreacted that night. There was a worse reaction because it was Scotland rather than if, say, we'd have drawn 0-0 with the Czech Republic in the third game, for example, and we'd only needed a draw to go through. The reaction was much bigger because it was Scotland. And now that's turned around, where everybody's got this positive feeling. It might not be that everybody thinks England's going to win the tournament. I don't think we're the best of the 4 teams left in, but I know it's possible, and we're all pulling in the right direction. I think the team morale, you can tell the camaraderie between them it's right up there at the moment. They're in a really good place as a squad, I think, and they believe in that manager.
I agree. Rob, is there anything else you want to mention at this point? Because
no, I just echo James's thoughts really. Yeah, the groups were disappointing, but like he's just said, that I think that team spirit there is something that we might not have seen in an England side for, well, in my lifetime, or maybe since '96 possibly. There just seems to be the whole squad pulling together for this common goal of doing something that none of these players can remember anyone doing.
I think, Rob, if I can jump in, I think they had that team spirit 3 years ago, but it didn't have the quality of what they've got now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it's just, I think that experience from 3 years ago, a lot of these players, they learned a lot from that. I think the pain of losing that semi-final and probably not playing for much of that game 3 years ago, they didn't play well, and they played within themselves. And now I think they've learned how to express themselves differently on a football pitch and not be scared to express themselves, which we saw on Saturday night at times.
Right, I'm going to go to Morten now and talk about the Denmark-Czech game, and then come back to you, James, to talk about England-Ukraine, just because I'm conscious we haven't heard from Morten.
He's just sat there
he's
chilling.
Just sitting there going, oh, fucking...
As usual, the English are going on too much. Yeah.
So, Morten, we've spoken to you a lot about how Denmark have done up until the recent game on Saturday. So let's talk about Saturday's game. How did you think that went with the Czech Republic?
I think it was much a talk about 2 halves where we were really, really good in the first and could have easily been up 2, maybe even 3-0. Got off to a really good start and continued dominating. The Czech Republic had a few half chances, but all in all, I think we were the dominant team. And yeah, Damsgaard had two run-ins on goals where he could have at least gotten 1. So that could have put the game well over. But yeah, Czech Republic came into the second half, guns firing, and had 3 or 4 good chances within 6-7 minutes and got the equalizer. Sorry, we did get 2-0, I thought. The 3-0 goal we could have had as well. But they reduced to 1-2, and then the lads got really nervous, it seemed, and tired. They were affected by the heat. I think it was like 32, 33 degrees, so you can easily tell that after like 65, 70 minutes they were knackered. So yeah, I think Hjulmand did a good job of making substitutions to get some fresh legs. And I just rewatched some extended highlights, and the Czechs didn't really threaten or played or got too much chances in the last 20. So all in all, it was a good effort and a controlled effort.
It's a great assist as well for the Dolberg goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you must have seen Modric how to play with the outside of the foot.
It's like pass of the tournament, that was.
Yeah. Morten, do you want to tell James how to pronounce it? Because I listened to James's podcast and he never pronounces it.
Oh, I can't say his name. No.
Go on, you say it how it's...
Mæhle.
Mæhle.
Yeah, Mæhle.
Mæhle. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that tomorrow as well. Mæhle.
So it's almost like the start of if you say mate, so you just go with a longer A, so it's May, and then Ellie Mæhle, if that makes sense.
No, Mailer.
Mailer. Like Naylor, but Mailer.
Good enough. So yeah, that was but also the build up from Vestergaard with a brilliant pass over the top to Mailer, and then outside of the foot was a brilliant goal.
How are you feeling confidence-wise then going into that England game? You saw the last 15-20 minutes, the players were getting tired. Does that worry you?
Not too much. To be fair, I think they will be. I know they had a really a calm training today where they didn't really run that much or just restitution. And I think they'll be ready to go and excited to play at Wembley in front of 60,000. But in terms of confidence, I think it's the underdog role that suits us really well, because we have a quality team, and we have a team that's really unified and stand together and all of that. So I think we'll produce a good performance.
Playing devil's advocate, right? I did from the beginning of the tournament. I kind of said that I really liked Denmark, and they would do really well. And that was before the whole Eriksen situation. And then when the Eriksen situation happened, I was a bit worried that how are Denmark going to cope with that. A lot of people are tipping Denmark to do really well, but you haven't had the strongest of sides to face in the knockouts. Would you agree, or do you still think that there's that confidence, because you haven't had to face one of the big sides, and this is a real test for you, right?
That's not true. We played Belgium in the group stage,
but you lost, right?
Yeah, but we were really good. but
you still lost.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think it's been overlooked in the British media how good we actually played in that game. Which is fine by me.
I think for the first hour or so, you were in control. They had to bring on De Bruyne and Hazard, and then they changed the game, didn't they?
And to be fair, the equalizer came from mainly a defensive error. I think it was a passing error from Vestergaard, and then Kjær just got put aside by Lukaku. And then they equalized. So could have been avoided, but the performance itself, taking result aside, then it was a really pleasing performance.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say in regards to Denmark and Czech game on the weekend?
I think no, not for that game. I'm not sure what to say more.
Right, James. England, Ukraine. What was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, good. We hadn't played like that in a previous game, particularly the pressing off the ball, pushing high with the three behind Kane, really going to press in. I mean, Ukraine were just swamped in a back five in the first half hour until basically the injury to Christoph, I think it is, who went off injured, and forced them to go to a 4-4-2. They had a little spell while England regrouped. We spoke about worries about Southgate and changing in-game tactics, and there was a subtle tweak for 10 minutes where he dropped Mason Mount in a little bit deeper just to firm it up. It was important we got to half-time, made sure we were still in front, and then obviously you get the second goal straight in the second half, and you've won the game from there. And the third goal was beautiful. If you can't lose your shit watching that, then there's something wrong with you if you're English. No, really impressive. I mean, 4-0 was possibly a little bit harsh in the end, but I mean, we won very, very comfortably. And I think actually, if we were watching another nation, we'd be very impressed with that. We'd go, yeah, do you know what? They look a strong side. So it's good. It feels like we're peaking. The performances are getting better. This was England's best performance, although, in my opinion, it's possibly the weakest of the 5 teams that we've played, actually.
Okay. Right, let's look ahead then to the England-Denmark game. Morten, I'll come to you first. What formation do you think Denmark will play here? Because, you know, I know that in the Wales game, you changed formation maybe 10, 15 minutes into the game, right? Did you think you'll start off with the back 4 or back 5, or do you think it was pretty much the same as it's been?
I think we'll play the 3-4-3 again with the back 3 and then the 2 wing backs. It's been working so well, and our wing backs has been really good. With obviously Mæhle doesn't need mentioning, but Jens Stryger and Vas interchangeably on the right wing back has been really good. But it's hard to say who's going to start now. I thought Wes would start the last game after his illness, so it's up in the air who will start there. But I think it will be 3-4-3 again.
And obviously, you come into the game as underdogs. What do you, from a tactical point of view, from a playing point of view, what do you guys have to do other than score a goal to win? What do you guys have to do there? How will you break down this English side and end up winning?
I'd say it kind of depends on the English tactics as well, whether they're going to line up with 2 defensive mids in Rice and Phillips as they did with Germany. If they do that, then we will obviously have to contain the offensive centre mid, and then I think our defense is capable of handling Kane, at least on the physical side. Obviously, he's good at dropping down, and then we need to push up on him if he gets in from a shooting distance, and then don't leave too much space for Sterling.
Okay. James, for someone that yourself looks into the games really tactically, where do you think England will win or lose this game? What do you think?
I think firstly, we'll go with a back 4. I know a lot of people will think, match up with the Danes and go with a back 3, but I think it's that change after 10 minutes against Wales is alarming for caution. That should England go a back 3 and then Denmark put Christensen into a holding midfield role 10 minutes into the game, then there's almost no point in matching it up. So I think England will be better off going with a 4. I think it might mean that Saka plays, which means then we can interchange in games. I think there's a possibility Saka might play on the right-hand side, and then if he wants to go to a back 3, he can just shove Walker along, Saka a little bit deeper, and we go from there. I think in terms of where we can win the game, I think kind of Morten's highlighted there, actually. I felt that in the game against the Czechs, particularly in the first half, they let way too many crosses come into the box, considering the Czechs are great at that, getting the likes of Souček running onto things from deep positions. England don't have those sort of players. And even if they do, you're not going to worry about a Mount kind of beating a Kjær or a Christensen or a Vestergaard in the air. But I think Kane dropping off into that whole area, because I think I've been really impressed with Højbjerg in this tournament and Delaney, and they're at their best when they go and press. So the space for England is behind there and in front of the back 3. So I think that's another reason why we'll play a 4, because I think he wants Mason Mount in that area, and it will have 1 or 2 effects on the game. One, either Denmark will just go for the game, which I think is their best philosophy, is to try and get in our face and make it like a Premier League game, or psychologically they'll get worried about it and they'll end up more like holding midfield players themselves, which then should allow the likes of Rice Phillips to dictate the game. So I think it depends how Denmark respond off the ball to what we do. But I would like to think that area in between Højbjerg and Delaney, if Kane drops in there, Mount can find the space, which he's very good at, particularly the half space kind of between left wing and centre forward, then we can do some damage in there.
So what do you think that team will be then? What, if you're, in your opinion, because I think you mentioned earlier you think Saka will play.
I think it will probably be the same team, but I think Saka will come in for Sancho.
Why do you think Saka should start ahead of Sancho for that particular game?
It's not even a case that I think he should. It's what I think Gareth will do because of that. Because I think he's conscious, if he goes with a 4, to know that in game, where we've been critical and said, can you change it in game? Well, actually, you can change the system then with the same parts of the team just by having Saka at right wing back, because defensively as well, we know the threat of Mæhle at left wing back, right? Bakaya's really good defensively as well. You can play him anywhere across the pitch. He'll go with him. If he needs to play him at right wing back and just tuck Kyle Walker inside, that's why I think he'll do that. It's not to say that Sancho couldn't play a wing back role, but I don't think that's, if you're in trouble, I don't think that's what you'll want to do. If he goes with a 4 and plays Sancho, he's going to stick with the system almost irrespective of what's happening, which is a little bit dangerous. And I think Gareth's tendency is to go on the side of caution and start that way. And if he feels like later he wants to, bring on Sancho, Grealish, Foden, whatever, you can bring these players into the game, can't you? That's what I suspect he might do to start. He also spoke about playing Sancho against Ukraine because they specifically wanted a right footer to play on the right hand side against Ukraine. So I think even if Saka hadn't had the niggle, there was always the intention for Jadon Sancho to play against that particular opposition. So I don't think Sancho deserves to be left out of the team. Like I don't think Saka would have deserved to be left out of the team if he had been fit, but that's what I think would have happened. I think because of the threat of Melee, it's quite possible that Saka will play. Otherwise, I think it would be the same team. If he picked a back three, I wouldn't be overly surprised. And I guess that would mean that Kieran Trippier would come into the team instead of Sancho. Otherwise, I think we're looking at the same 11.
If I've read my stats correctly, and you'll probably tell me if I'm wrong, this is our 5th major final ever, from what I understand.
I don't know which country you support, England. mate. 5th major final, semi-final, maybe.
5th major semi-final. 2 of which have been under Gareth Southgate now. Do you think that if we don't make the final, people would see this as a major disappointment, or not even disappointment, but as a failure as a tournament? Considering in the whole of major tournaments, this is, the 5th time that we've made the semi-final, and 2 of them under Gareth. I think, in my opinion, he's not given enough credit for that.
I think the way the last 2 games have gone, it wouldn't be considered as a failure. Because of the fact that we beat Germany, how emphatic Saturday night was, has given the nation the kind of moments that you want. Those kind of, they're 2 games where you look back on, you go, where were you for those games? And we'd all say, oh yeah, I was there for the Germany game, or that's where I was for the Ukraine game. So I wouldn't describe it as a failure. I would describe it, if we don't go through, as a disappointment now. I think if you'd have said to an England fan pre-tournament semi-final, most people who perhaps hadn't studied the draw on that would go, yeah, that's kind of par the course. With respect to Denmark, who are obviously an extremely good side, most of us have been so impressed with what they've done. It's a home game, 60,000 at Wembley. We're rightfully favourites. Of course, it will be a disappointment if we don't win the game. But what was the word you used, Sham? To call it a failure? No, I don't quite think so. They're a very good side. If we'd have lost on Saturday, that would have been a failure.
Yeah. Rob, any other questions for these 2?
I mean, we're on the subject of Wembley. I've just spotted a question in the chat from FPL Glasgow, Evening Paul, and how much of a factor is playing at Wembley in this semi-final? We'll go to Morton first, because effectively being the away side, but there'll be lots of UK-based Danes, I guess, at the ground that would have got tickets. How do you feel about it? Because I know that it's been a lot of people that it's been sort of around the Twitter community, a lot of people, a bit of a bitterness about the games at home and all of that. I mean, you've had 3 games at home in Copenhagen and then travelled to Baku. But how do you feel about Wembley?
And Amsterdam as well. I think it's a shame that, or it's, how to say it, I think it's weird that the English government raises the attendance from 25 to 60k and then still does not allow away fans to go. And then you can say it's all fair and fine because we get the 5-6k that are UK residents. However, most of them are not the fans you would expect or want to go. To be fair.
Yeah, they're not the ones that are in Parken and making the noise.
Exactly, and I'm sure they'll make a mark of themselves. But I think it's a shame for those that usually attend matches and go on away trips and that they can't go. I think that's a shame.
James.
What do you want me to say? It's unfair that we're not letting the country. I mean, it is a little bit. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics and whatnot.
I think how much in terms of a factor is playing at Wembley?
What's that?
How much of a factor is it playing at Wembley?
Well, I don't think it's a negative for either side, because you have to remember that for other nations around the world, and Morton can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still an incredible mystique about playing at Wembley, whether it's new stadium, old stadium. And I certainly experienced it in the couple of years that we had home games for Tottenham at Wembley. The opposition raised their game because they wanted to have the game of their lives at Wembley, right? When you were playing the ordinary sides, should we say, weaker teams, for example. And it'd be no different. Admittedly, for the Danes, I mean, the Danes had the experience where they come and played us at Wembley a year or so ago, when Maguire got sent off, outplayed us, thoroughly deserved to win the game. That was in front of an empty stadium. So for them to go back and actually have the 60,000, I don't think it's bad for Denmark either. Good players rise to occasions like this. And for a high intensity team like Denmark, it's better for them to have 60,000 people in the ground than 15, 20,000 or so. So I don't think it's bad for Denmark. I don't think it would be bad for Italy or Spain even. I don't particularly think it was bad for Germany. The difference, of course, is I think the three of us have all been in Wembley when the atmosphere has been shy, friendlies and stuff like that. It won't be like that.
It's not going to be shy on Wednesday, no.
No, it's going to be a proper kind of vociferous atmosphere that's going to feel like a cup quarterfinal or something like that. So, yeah, of course, listen, you're getting backing from your own crowd. Of course, it's going to be an advantage, but I don't think it's I'm absolutely certain the Danes will prefer to play in front of that atmosphere at Wembley than what they had in Baku at the weekend. I'm absolutely certain of that.
I agree, and I also read some comments from the Danish players that they're looking forward to playing at a almost full Wembley. It's, as we all know, it's as a foreigner, it is a mythical place. Growing up and watching the FA Cups and stuff. So I'm sure that the lads will look forward to it.
Imagine being part of the team, the first team to ever beat England at Wembley in England's own tournament, if you like, when it's a home game for England.
Yeah.
Imagine that's them. It's folklore for them, isn't it?
So that's history for sure.
Exactly.
Rob, we got one more question in the chat. Did you want to read it out to them?
One from Dreadapil.
Yeah.
So question for Morten. In Denmark, what is the general mood in the public and media in regards to beating England? Is there more confidence than fear?
There are more confidence than fear for sure. But it's more like this jovial... people are just... after the Baku game versus the Czechs, there were parties in the streets all over the place. People are like almost delirious. So we're looking forward to it, and we are, quietly confident in our chances.
Yeah.
So no fear is not. So fear is not something that's in the picture as such. Respect, of course, we know it's a really good side, but we rate ourselves as well.
Okay, let's talk about some fantasy options, and for this game in particular. I'll come to you first, James. 2 questions. Firstly, what players do you think we should be looking at? And secondly, what differentials? Are there any England differentials we should be looking at? Considering they're the second team and we're probably not going to be seeing them.
I mean, what's differential now might not be by the time kickoff comes around necessarily. I mean, Luke Shaw's ownership's absolutely massive now, 37%. I think that group of 5, Kane, Sterling, Shaw, Stones, Pickford, is going to be a lot in a lot of teams. Maguire's only 14%, is probably effective of the yellow card ahead of the Ukraine game. But I can see he's definitely rising. I think the one really is Mount, isn't it? 7.1. Because he hasn't returned yet. I know he got the assist for Henderson, but he hasn't really returned. It's probably the one that will be overlooked. So, I mean, Mason Mount, I'd say it's pretty much a definite for me.
What about Saka? He's only 1%.
It's a gamble, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you back him to start, then I guess it's a good differential.
I think he probably will, but then the flip of that is it might depend where people are with their squads, because there's no guarantee off that. Then he'll start in the final. So, admittedly, you'll have that information for the final, but I don't see him. I don't feel him as an attacking return player in a game like this. I think he'll have a set job to do for England if he plays. He's very capable. I would rather pay, if I knew that Foden and Saka were going to play, I would pay the extra for Mount. I would pay the extra for Mount.
I heard on one of your pods before this, I'm sure it was yours, James, that the game against Ukraine suited Kane more than Sterling, which is why I think you said that you prefer to go Kane over Sterling. What's your thoughts for this game? Who does this game prefer? Who do you think this game is better for against Denmark?
Harry.
From an attacking point of view. Yeah, again, Harry.
Yeah, he's in form now. Don't overlook it from my perspective. Once he's got the one, he's off and running. There was never a doubt for me in terms of captaincy at the weekend for fantasy. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get a returnee captain out of it. Italy, Spain, I'm fairly sure. So I'll probably end up with Harry Wednesday night. I would go Harry over Sterling. I know Sterling can nearly match his returns with a clean sheet and a goal as well. I'd say what's that, one less than Kane goal and assist.
Yeah.
But I'll be backing Harry. At this stage, you're happy with one return, I think, from a captaincy. If you get more than that, it's a blessing. But I think you're happy with one return in a Euro semi-final, and I would back Harry.
Morten, you've been saying from day one, Mæhle and Damsgaard. You said it on our preview podcast about Mæhle. Other than those two, because I assume you're going to say those two, is there anyone else that is worth bringing in now? Because I know the last game you said it was a don't buy, don't sell. Is that the same sort of attitude now, or?
I think you could make an argument of maybe if you have Schmeichel or Kjær, then there could be an argument of not Schmeichel but selling, so you don't have double Danish defense. I think would be okay to offload one if you have enough transfers. I think Damsgaard is so cheap, and I think he's 7-8%, but I'm guessing the effective ownership in the top is pretty high. So I'm not sure how much of differential he is. I would still, for differential, I would back Vestergaard. He's dangerous on the head. I think he's still at 1%. And then obviously Dolberg. I'm not sure how much the ownership is right now, but he's been he's
kind of has to start now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I can't see him not starting for sure. But he's this tournament, after he got his minutes or his starts and goals, he's looking like the player he was at Ajax and the player number 9 that we have sought after on the national team for years. So he could be our Harry Kane, so to say, to decide the match.
I'm interested in one more thing that you haven't mentioned. I'm very interested in Striker Larsson at 4.7. I know you said you're not sure if he'll start, and you thought Vass would probably play the weekend.
Vass got into the tournament as a starting right back, and then he got ill, which was kept pretty secret. And then Strujer started, and then he held his place versus the Czechs, which I was a bit surprised about. So now I think it's up in the air. I don't think he's a given starter. I still think Vass I think it's a 50-50 who will start. Depends on Hjulmand, what he thinks about your left-hand side and what suits that game. But I'm not sure.
I think at 4.7, you can potentially take the chance, though, can't you? You'd obviously see the team and you can decide whether to bring him off the bench or whatnot. And similarly for the final, I mean, my kind of thoughts are if you got to the final...
Can't see the team, though.
No, but you can for your subs, can't you? For the England game, you'll see your subs. So if he's on the bench, you could make a decision maybe to leave him on the bench. Although, I mean, him and Vass have kind of they've been making the change around about the hour mark, haven't they? But my thoughts were if he was going to play, because obviously he was on the set piece, wasn't he, for the corners from the right hand side. If you were going to get to the final and he was going to play, I think I would want him and Mæhle in my team.
And to be fair, when Vass is playing, he's also on some set pieces as well. So either one is a good pick, and as you said, I think Strujer is just a bit cheaper, right?
Yeah, it's 4.7.
Yeah, and Vass is 5.3. Yeah. So it's a 50-50. So it's it could be a good differential if you get him in from the bench and he starts.
But before we go on to predictions, James, I'll come to you first. Do you see this as a low scoring 1-0, 0-0, 1-1 sort of game, or do you think this is going to be a really, really attacking game with loads of goals?
Gee, that's $64,000 question. I think it depends on Denmark. I think we can't understand what the mentality will be, and like I said, that kind of area behind Højbjerg and Delaney might frighten them and they might end up behind the ball a little bit, or they might think that they can pressure us the other way and try and push us back. I think what we've seen of them and how brave they've been, particularly especially in the Russia game, I think like the intensity to the play that night and the opening hour or so against Belgium as well, makes me think that they probably will try and push England back. And I don't think many other nations would be brave enough to try that at the moment, particularly if England did play a 4. I think if Denmark do that, it could be mad. If Denmark do that, I think the game could be 3-2 or so. Okay. But my instinct is it might be something that they do for 20 minutes and then ease off. I would bet that Denmark will start the better of the two teams.
Morten, what do you think?
I would say it's up to England. Because I think Southgate will approach this game the same way he did with Germany, so he will be a bit cautious. And I think it will be 0-0 at halftime, and then I think it's time for the what do you call it, the standard Pickford howler, right? As should we do.
Listen, none of that picking on little arms on this show, mate.
Right, let's go for a prediction then. James, how do you see this going?
My prediction is that Kasper Schmeichel would get into our team, but I'm not sure a lot else would. I'm going to go 2-1 England.
And Morton, what are you going for?
I think it'll be 1-1, and then we win 2-1 because of Pickford.
Rob, what are you saying?
Well, Pickford he had his howler moment, didn't he, against Ukraine?
He was bored, Rob. No, he was.
I just quickly, I saw. I don't pay much attention to newspaper match ratings, but one of the red top newspapers, so they had every player at like 7 or higher for England, apart from Pickford, who was rated 5.
That one mistake.
I'm guessing it was because of the one air kick that he did, and I was just like, he didn't do anything else particularly wrong. He did everything else he needed to well, and I'm gonna go 1-0 England. I'm gonna go for another clean sheet, but I think it's gonna be tight, very tight.
I'm going to say 2-0 England.
You're going out
right.
there.
Huh?
I love how you said that and ran quickly.
It's a tough crowd here.
Okay, let's look at your fantasy teams then. And James, you're doing particularly well at the moment. You're in the semi-final of the Rep Cup that we've got as well. What are your plans for the semi-final, or what are you thinking as plans for the semi-final?
Morton's put me right off because I was buying the right wing back, but I'm not sure I'm doing that now. The honest answer is I don't know, but I'm in a position where, I mean, you've got it on the screen, haven't you? I've got 11, although Berardi's dodge, isn't it? And obviously Spinazzola's out, so I'm effectively at 10. So I think Berardi stays for me, and just on the off chance he might get me something from the bench or so, and bin him for a bench player the next day. So I think I'm going to go Simon as a goalkeeper to replace Stekelenburg, just hedge my bets a little bit because I've got a lot of Italian coverage. And I think for the rest, definitely Mason Mount, definitely Luke Shaw. The other one's up in the air a little bit. I was thinking of going with the Dane boy, but Morton's put me off. I might.
You can still take the gamble though, if you've got, because everyone's got 5 transfers. It seems like it's a lot, really. Like 5 transfers. So and you can only carry one over as well.
So you can't for the knockouts.
You can't carry any over. I read
the rules last night.
So you've got to use 5 transfers. So if you've got 4 players that obviously, 5 players that need changing, and it's probably worth having 1 or 2 gambly kind of players there.
The way I'm thinking of going sort of Simon and Stryger, because I'm thinking then worst case scenario, if it's a Spain-Denmark final, I've got 5. And then I wouldn't be asked to take the hit in the final, but I could take another 5 to get 10 for the final or so. That would be my thinking. And then that way I'm kind of covered whatever the result almost then.
Okay. Right, let's look at who's next. Morton? Let's have a look at your side. What are you thinking to do here?
Yeah, I think if I use my 5 subs, I have a full team, and then the questions would be Berardi and Sarabia, whether he'll be fit. I'm thinking of getting Schmeichel in for the save points and hopefully the clean sheet. And then I have Maguire for the central defender. I couldn't bring in more Italians, as I'm picking Emerson. He should be low owned.
I'm buying Emerson. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm buying him if he's playing. Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
back on.
he should. No worries. He should be playing on the left back, right? And obviously you'll see the team sheet anyways. And then I'll have Insigne and Dolberg.
Okay. Right.
Should we have a look at your team and then we'll look at my team on the later one?
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Tell us all about your team.
Yeah, I'm not doing amazing at the moment, I'll be honest. But I'm looking to bring in Maguire and Shaw, and then I've who else is I look at? Yeah, Maguire, Shaw, Insigne, maybe Pickford, and Di Lorenzo, I believe, at the moment. So that's who I'm not sure whether I'm thinking to go for English at the back. Like I'm not sure whether or not it's worth doing that, just because if it does go to extra time, that's another half an hour you have to try and cling on to a clean sheet. So I don't know if it's worth it. But yeah, it's something that I'll be weighing up at the moment. Right. Okay.
Got one last question from Rohan. I think this is mainly for James. If Denmark get the early goal with the high intensity, how do you think this England side will cope, considering they haven't gone behind throughout the tournament?
Badly, probably. I would not be at all surprised if Denmark scored the first goal in the game. Like I said, I think they might come out the traps very fast, actually. And then, especially if they score, I think they'll be a little bit more sensible about what they're doing. Because I think that there has to be a consciousness as well. We've talked about England's route perhaps being easy. Denmark's hasn't been particularly difficult either. I don't know how to react. It's probably as much as well, Rob. How would a crowd react? Will they start getting nervous?
Exactly.
You can get that kind of nervous tension that builds, and actually, I think that will happen the longer the game stays 0-0 or is level as well, because there is obviously expectation on England. The majority of England fans weirdly will believe that we're going to do it this time. I think that's summed up by the three of us saying, yeah, look, tough game, but think we can do this. So that's going to bring a different expectation to what they're used to. It's not like Germany in 96, where we knew we were coming up against a team that definitely was a 50-50 coin toss. We are favourites. We don't have to be dismissive of that. We should be winning the game, but that brings its own pressure on.
Yeah, I think if we went behind, I think we'll learn a lot about the character of this side. And yeah, I'm very wary about even thinking about that at the moment, because I know how I'd feel myself. But hopefully the fans that are in the stadium can, if it did happen like that, then they continue to back the boys and make some noise.
It can also go that way if we 1-0 up. Say we score early and then we dominate and we don't get the second, and then they begin to ease their way back in the game. That brings a kind of nervous energy from the crowd as well. So there's positives and negatives for having that crowd. But I think the squad have shown they react very well to these positions they're putting in. It's another thing as well. When we obviously played Denmark twice in the Nations League, they obviously beat us at Wembley. I know Maguire got sent off, but they were the better side even before the red card. The game in Copenhagen was very drab. We played a back five in both of those games. And it's another reason why I think we might go with a back four.
Okay. Rob, have we got any updates before we end this stream? That you want to give?
Not really. No. We can mention so James beating Ukraine in the reps competition from that side of the draw, and he'll be taking on Joachim, the Belgian rep, who overcame the North Macedonian rep in the quarterfinals. So North Macedonia got to the quarterfinals of the reps competition, but the Belgian rep is actually the highest scoring of all the reps so far. I think he's in the top like 500 in overall. So tough. You've got a tough job there, James, to represent England in the final. So at least we have some sort of representation on Sunday. So we're all with you to bring it home.
I don't doubt. Listen, it's England in the semi-final. It's going to go wrong.
At least you can't lose on penalties. You can lose on like goals scored or something ridiculous.
What happens if it's a draw? Have you worked this stuff out?
It's goals scored and then countbacks and all sorts.
Countbacks. Listen,
so
our teams are similar.
If your goals scored in this round are the same, then it'll be the previous round goals scored, then the previous round and stuff like that until...
Well, I'm fucked based on that then, and I got 68 and I got 57.
he's probably got an extra return in there. So it's that, and then the mini league. At the top of our mini league on 361 points is Matty Parsons 8, sitting there, like 18 points ahead of second place. I don't want to jinx him and say it's in the bag, but it probably is in the bag. You'd have to do something horribly wrong to blow. I don't think I'm going to be catching up. I was 28 points behind.
I'm definitely not catching up.
You don't. You've never made the screenshot, mate. I can make the screenshot bigger for the final stream, and so you can see yourself on there. You might not be able to read where you are, but you'll be able to see ish.
Yeah. Right, James Morton, is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
No,
good luck.
You too. But it sounded like a nervous bunch in that stadium, so that's going to be good.
Listen, let me tell you something, my friend. Last week, all before the Ukraine game, we have concentrated minds. We've got to get mentality right. We all knew we were going to fucking blow them away, mate. We're just keeping it chilled now, mate, because you know what we're like. Most people think English are arrogant, right? So we're just trying to keep it cool at the moment.
We don't think that at all.
Sham, let me tell you, I'd let you into a little secret. Sham messaged me early. He said, I reckon we're going to do them Danes about 4-0, mate. All over them.
You're putting me in it now, you prick.
Just throw him under the bus. I like it.
Good luck, more. And your team's been a pleasure to watch in this tournament. I think anybody who wasn't touched by obviously what happened in the group stage, Christian's a player that I loved for obvious reasons as well. But I mean, like the Russia night, we was all willing you to do the business, mate. I in hindsight, I wish you hadn't, because I'd rather be playing someone else than yourselves. But no, it was brilliant, mate. We've been so impressed with your team.
Cheers.
Cool.
Right.
So we're back in half an hour.
We are.
Yeah, with our other two semi-finalists. So we've got at James CC1234, who is the Italian rep, who's joined us a couple of times so far, and then we've got Raul.
I heard what he said. He said that only Italy could beat themselves now.
He's confident. He's been
you
confident.
Better ask him about that.
we'll ask him just for you. And we've got Raul, our Spanish rep, who'll be talking us through another dodgy performance from Spain that saw them still get
definitely
through.
Winning it, mate.
They're gonna fucking win it. So yeah, come back and join us at 9:30, and we'll see you there. All right.
Leaves me to say one more thing to you, Morton.
He just puts a dampener on the whole thing.
It's brilliant that he muted himself. I like it.
Sham, have you seen Atomic Kitten singing in Croydon Box Park?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
That's what you need to go and do. The singing's better than yours anyway. I've seen that.
Listen, it was passion, right? It was passion.
I'll worry about your passion, mate.
Right. To those listening and watching, thank you very much. And to you, James and Morton, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you in half an hour. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.